The silent graveyard. The galaxy was wide, filled with countless wonders and secrets. But no place carried the same weight of silence, the same strange fear. As the Mothyard of the humans, it floated at the edge of forgotten space, beyond the usual. Trade routes where even smugglers hesitated to pass. To the naked eye, it was nothing more than a field of dead ships, hundreds, maybe thousands, of massive human war machines, rusting in the cold vacuum. Their hulls were scarred, their cannons cracked, their once bright banners faded to black shadows. They drifted in the dark like ghosts. Alien explorers had whispered of it for centuries. They called it a graveyard, a place where humanity dumped its broken toys after wars. Some said it was haunted by human spirits. Others believed it was cursed, but most agreed on one thing: it was useless. Dead ships, nothing more. That belief ended the day the first alien fleet entered. The Zyrak scouts were the first to approach. Small, insect-like beings, proud of their technology and mocking of all others. They laughed as their ships circled the Mothyard. Humans are fools, one captain buzzed over the combs. Look at this mess. They keep their junk like children, clinging to broken dolls. Another replied with a sneer. We will strip this place. Melt the metal, take the engines, sell what we can. Their history will become our profit. Their fleet drifted between the silent giants, weaving through towers of steel and broken cannons. The human ships floated without response. Dead, cold, harmless. Or so they thought. As the Zyrak crews laughed, one of their pilots noticed something strange. A faint red light glowed on the surface of a colossal battleship. Just one small circular light. At first, he thought it was a reflection from his scanner. But then another light appeared, a few decks lower. And then another. Captain, the ship. It's powering up, the pilot stammered. Nonsense, the captain barked. They've been dead for centuries. Keep moving. But soon, dozens of red lights flickered to life across the battleship's hull. Then the ship next to it lit up, and the one beside that. All across the Mothyard, one by one, ships began to awaken. The laughter of the Zyrak died in their throats. A deep hum rolled across the fleet's scanners, a vibration so low it shook their bones. Ancient reactors, once thought cold, were coming. Alive. The broken giants stirred, their shadows stretching across the stars. Then a voice spoke that it wasn't mechanical. It wasn't alien. It was human. This place is not yours. The words echoed across every ship in the fleet, crawling into every comm system, every helmet, every ear. The tone was calm, but filled with a warning sharp enough to cut steel. Panic erupted in the Zyrak ships. Who said that? Where is it coming from? Another voice answered, louder this time, carried on a signal older than their own records. This is the Mothyard. You will not take it. Leave or be destroyed. The alien captains laughed nervously, though their laughter shook with fear. Empty threats. These are dead relics. We have modern weapons. They have nothing. And then, without warning, one of the human warships moved. It was slow at first, a long groan of metal, as thrusters fired for the first time in centuries. The ship's massive cannons, once frozen in silence, turned and locked onto the Zyrak fleet. Its targeting systems flickered online, painting every alien hull in crimson light. This is impossible, whispered one alien pilot. The Zyrak captain tried to steady his voice. It's bluffing. It cannot fire. These ships are too old. But then the hum grew louder. The battleship's cannons glowed with power. And every ship in the Mothyard followed, as though the graveyard had awoken all at once. Hundreds of human warships, long abandoned, now turned their silent fury toward the intruders. The Zyrak fleet fell into chaos. Pilots shouted, engines screamed. and scanners flooded with warnings. Some tried to run, others aimed their weapons, but all felt the same thing: fear. The human voice returned, this time colder, sharper, like a blade pressed to their throats. You were warned. The first shot fired. A beam of energy ripped across the void, striking a Zyrak cruiser. The ship exploded instantly, fragments scattering like dust. The aliens froze. The dead ships were not dead at all. The Mothyard had defended itself. And in that moment, every alien in the fleet realized something terrible. The humans had not left a graveyard. They had left a warning. The warning lights the Zyrak fleet scattered like insects in the dark. Their wings of steel beat hard against the void as they scrambled to escape the graveyard that had suddenly come alive. But the Mothyard did not allow them to leave so easily. Everywhere, lights flickered across the hulks of human ships. Red circles glowed like eyes opening after centuries of slumber. One by one, the warships powered up. Engines hummed with low thunder. Weapon mounts groaned as they rotated, and scanners locked on to fleeing targets. "This is impossible," shouted a Zyrak captain. "They were dead." They were. His voice cut off when his ship jolted violently. Warning sirens screamed. A beam of light pierced through his hull, slicing the cruiser in half. The fragments drifted apart, glowing hot, as alarms filled the comm channels. The survivors panicked. "It's not just one ship, it's all of them. They're moving." All across the battlefield, the so-called relics of humanity's past shifted. Their massive frames, scarred with the history of old wars, now looked like predators shaking off centuries of dust. Their cannons glowed brighter, charging for another volley. And the voice came again. Cold, calm, human. "You were warned. Leave now." The words echoed into every alien ear. It wasn't just a transmission. It was like the ships themselves were speaking, filling their minds with dread. Some Zyrak captains tried to rally. "Ignore it. They are machines running old programs. Attack them and finish this." Dozens of alien ships turned their weapons on the nearest human warship. Missiles streaked through the void. Laser fire crackled. Beams tore through the dark. The blasts lit up the hull of the massive battleship. But when the light faded, the ship still stood. Its armor had not cracked. Its shields, thought long dead, glowed with an eerie blue light. The Zyrak fell silent. Then the battleship responded. Its cannons fired at once. The soundless explosions in space were brighter than stars. Entire squadrons vanished in fire, their fragments spinning silently. Into the black, the alien fleet broke. Some fled in terror, engines burning hot. Others froze, their courage shattered. And yet, the human voice followed them. "This is sacred ground. You are warned." The panic spread beyond the battlefield. Word traveled faster than light. Within hours, other alien empires heard of what had happened in the Mothyard. The Council of Vena, the bird-like Kiros, the cold-blooded Threks all received reports of dead ships coming alive and wiping fleets from existence. At first, many laughed. "Impossible," they said. "Fairy tales." But the wreckage of Zyrak ships drifting at the edge of the Mothyard told a different story. Still, prideful leaders could not resist. They sent their own fleets, confident their weapons were stronger. The Kiros launched carriers filled with drones. They flew like swarms of insects, buzzing around the ancient human ships. Their numbers were endless, their speed unmatched. As they swarmed, the human ships lit up once more. Bright red lines scanned the field. Targeting systems locked on. And then, without a word, the Mothyard unleashed its fury. Drones vanished in burning clouds, one after another, swatted down like flies. The carriers themselves shook under massive blasts. Within minutes, the proud fleet of the Kiros was gone, reduced to silence and drifting metal. Again, The voice rang out. This place is not yours. Leave or be destroyed. The galaxy trembled. Alien. Leaders began to whisper among themselves. Was the Mothyard truly a graveyard, or was it something more? Was it a trap? A fortress? A warning left behind by humanity itself? But curiosity is dangerous. The Threx Empire, always hungry for conquest, refused to be frightened. Their commanders sneered at the idea of old ships standing against modern fleets. They are machines. Nothing more, their warlord declared. If the humans left them, they can be taken. And so the Threx fleet entered the Mothyard. At first, nothing moved. The old ships hung silent, drifting. The Threx laughed at the fear of others. But then the lights returned. Red, cold, watching. The voice rose again, colder than before. You were warned. This is your final chance. The Threx did not listen. They fired first. And in that moment, the entire Mothyard awakened. Not a handful of ships. Not a dozen. All of them. Hundreds of human warships lit up at once, their hulls glowing, their engines burning, their cannons turning. The void itself trembled under the power of their awakening. The Threx fleet froze in disbelief. What they thought was a graveyard was now an army. The voice came one last time. You came for scrap. You found judgment. The cannons fired. The dark void lit up like 1,000 suns. Ghosts of steel, the void burned with the fire of dead fleets. The Threx ships that had dared to challenge the Mothyard now drifted in silence, broken apart by the storm of ancient human weapons. The wreckage of cruisers and carriers floated among the hulks of old warships, as if the graveyard itself had swallowed them whole. But the galaxy did not rest. News spread faster than light. Every empire, every race, every council now whispered of the same thing. The human Mothyard is alive. Some called it a trap. Others said it was cursed. But a few began to suspect something far more dangerous, that humanity had built the Mothyard for this exact purpose. The Vena Council sent their fastest ships to study the site. They believed their stealth technology could slip past the human ghosts. At first, their scouts drifted through the massive wrecks without trouble. The human ships stayed silent, lights dimmed, weapons cold. It is only superstition, one alien whispered. The others triggered some automated system. We will not. But as they passed deeper into the graveyard, the scanners of the Vena, ships began to flicker. Shadows appeared where no ships should be. Cold signatures filled the sensor's heat, readings that came and went like breaths. And then they heard it. A voice. Not the cold warning from before. Not the simple command of leave. This voice was different. It was low, tired, human. You should not have come. The Vena pilots froze. They looked at one another, but none spoke. Who are you? Their captain demanded. For a long moment, there was only silence. Then, on the screens of every ship, a face appeared. Human. It was a man, old but sharp, his eyes burning like stars in the dark. His uniform was ancient, its colors faded, but still recognizable, the mark of a human fleet commander. This is Admiral Kalen of the Terran Defense. You are trespassing in the Mothyard. The Vena captain's throat tightened. Impossible. The Terran Defense ended centuries ago. Humanity abandoned this fleet. The man's face did not change. You are wrong. Humanity abandons nothing. These ships are not grave markers. They are guardians. The Vena fleet panicked. Some shouted, "It's a recording." Others whispered, "No, it's alive." Admiral Kellen's voice cut through their fear. You came seeking weakness. You found us instead. This fleet does not sleep. It waits. It remembers. Behind him, on the view screens, the human warships began to move again. Not in random defense, but in perfect formation. Cruisers aligned beside battleships. Carriers drifted into place. Even the shattered hulks adjusted their positions. Like soldiers taking rank. The Vena realized too late. This was not a graveyard at all. This was an army. A waiting army. Their captain tried to steady his voice. "We come in peace. We meant no harm." Kellen's gaze was cold. "You came with weapons. You came with pride. You came with laughter at our legacy. That is harm enough." The Vena fleet turned to retreat, engines burning. But the human ships were faster. The old war machines, fueled by reactors older than the Vena race itself, surged forward. Beams of white fire cut through the fleeing ships. Drones of ancient design launched from carriers, swarming with precision. The Vena ships fell one by one, their stealth useless against the scanners of the Mothyard. Through it all, Kellen's voice followed them. "Run if you wish. You cannot escape the judgment of the forgotten." The Vena ships broke apart, their debris scattering among the ruins. The few survivors fled into the void, terrified and broken. The galaxy erupted with fear. Now it was certain. The Mothyard was not empty. It was commanded. It was alive, but the mystery only grew darker. How could a human admiral survive for centuries? How could ships, older than many empires, still fight with such fury? Some whispered of stasis pods, humans frozen in time until the day they were needed. Others spoke of AI copies of human minds, watching over the ships forever. But no one knew the truth. What they did know was simple. The galaxy had changed. Humanity, thought to be quiet and forgotten, now cast a shadow over every empire. And in the darkness of the Mothyard, Admiral Kalen stood on the bridge of his flagship, eyes fixed on the stars. "They will not stop coming," he said to the silent crew around him, whether living or ghosts, no one could say. "And we will not stop waiting." The graveyard of steel was not silent anymore. It was awake. And the galaxy was beginning to realize the nightmare that meant. The keeper of the Mothyard, the galaxy could no longer deny it. The Mothyard was not a graveyard. It was not a myth. It was a fortress. The face of Admiral Kalen, a human thought long dead, now haunted the minds of every alien commander. His words spread across relays faster than light. "This fleet does not sleep. It waits, it remembers." Across empires, leaders argued. Some demanded to destroy the Mothyard at all costs. Others whispered caution, fear in their voices. But pride is a dangerous thing. The galaxy had mocked humans for too long to admit weakness. Now, and so, fleets kept coming. The Drael, lizard-skinned warriors who prided themselves on brute strength, were next. Their warlord commanded 50 warships, each bristling with weapons. When they entered the Mothyard, the lights came alive again, hundreds of red eyes opening in the dark. And then Kalen spoke. "This is your last warning. Leave." The Drael laughed. "One human cannot command an army of ghosts. These are old machines, nothing more." But Kalen did not laugh. His voice was steady, heavy with iron. "You think me alone? You think these ships are empty? Humanity never leaves its guardians behind. You are not facing relics. You are facing us." The Drael fired first. Beams of plasma lit the void. Missiles streaked through the dark. The first human ship shuddered under the assault, its hull cracking. But it did not fall. Its shields flared, stronger than expected. And then the Mothyard answered. Cannons roared in silence. Entire Drael ships vanished in white fire. The warlord's laughter died in his throat as his fleet was cut to pieces. In minutes, the battle ended, the Drael reduced to drifting wreckage. Still, Kellen's voice echoed, "You were warned." But some fleets survived long enough to report more details, and their story spread. They spoke not only of Kalen, but of shadows moving on the bridges of the human warships. Shapes like men and women, uniforms still bright, standing at their posts. They did not breathe. They did not move. And yet they stood, silent crew of a silent army. Whispers began. Were they ghosts? Machines shaped like men? Or humans who had given up life itself to guard the Mothyard forever? Alien scholars argued, but none dared to test the answer. Meanwhile, Kalen stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the wreckage float outside. His face was calm, but his eyes burned with fire. His voice was not just a warning, it was a message. This place is not just ours. It is a memory, a promise. Humanity does not forget. Humanity does not forgive. He walked slowly to the wide window, gazing at the endless rows of human warships around him. Some were whole, shining with new power. Others were cracked, broken, their crews long gone. Yet all stood together, side by side, like an army frozen in time. Kalen whispered, though the galaxy still heard, "This is not a graveyard. This is a vow." Those words shook the stars dotting the Galactic Council. Alien leaders argued louder than ever. Some demanded war, convinced humanity was hiding too much power. Others begged restraint, fearing the cost of angering the Mothyard. The insectoid envoys whispered in fear. If even their dead fight like this, what of the living? The avian delegates clicked their beaks uneasily. If one admiral waits, how many more still hide in other places? The reptilian warlords roared with anger. They dare threaten us with their old bones. We will burn the Mothyard to ash. But deep down, none of them believed it would be easy. The next fleet to challenge Kalen was larger than any before, an armada of 3 empires combined. Hundreds of alien warships entered the Mothyard together, their commanders confident that numbers would crush the human ghosts. Kalen stood ready. His ships formed lines, shields glowing, cannons charged. He did not beg. He did not boast out. He simply said, "You will not leave here alive." And then the Mothyard moved not as scattered ships, not as broken wrecks, but as a living fleet, turning in perfect unity. The battle to come would decide more than victory or defeat. It would decide whether the galaxy still believed humans were weak, or whether they finally understood the truth. The awakening fleet, the void trembled. 3 empires had united ships of the reptilian Drail, the insectoid Vena, and the avian Kyros. Together, their armada filled the stars with steel and fire. Hundreds of cruisers, battleships, and carriers drifted into the Mothyard, confident in their numbers. Their leaders believed no ghost fleet could resist such power. Inside the flagship of the humans, Admiral Kalen stood on the bridge, hands clasped behind his back. His face was calm, his eyes sharp. Before him, rows of ghostly crews stood at silent posts, motionless, like statues guarding the past. Kalen spoke softly, though the words carried into every human ship. They think numbers make them strong. They think pride shields them. But they forget who we are. They forget what we built. Across the Mothyard, the old warships stirred. Engines glowed, shields flared, cannons hummed with power. Ships once thought dead now moved in unison, forming massive lines like soldiers waking from centuries of rest. The alien commanders watched in disbelief. This is impossible. A fight in formation. One captain gasped, "They are." "Not derelicts," another whispered. "They are an army." Then Kellen's voice echoed into every alien com system, calm yet heavy with warning. "You stand in sacred ground. You think yourselves conquerors. You are trespassers, and trespassers must be judged." With those words, the Mothyard came alive. Hundreds of human warships surged forward, weapons blazing. The first volley of cannon fire lit up the void, tearing through alien lines. Entire Drail cruisers exploded in fire. Vena carriers cracked in half, their swarms of drones vanishing before they could launch. Kiro's battle wings scattered, their sleek formations torn apart. The galaxy had never seen such fury. The aliens fired back. Beams of plasma streaked across the darkness. Missiles flared like burning stars. For a moment, the void became a storm of destruction. Human ships shuddered under the assault, shields sparking, hulls cracking, but they did not fall. One by one, the ancient giants held their ground, answering every strike with overwhelming firepower. The alien commanders shouted over their comms, "Focus on one ship, overwhelm it." But when they tried, the human fleet moved as if guided by one mind. Lines shifted, ships covering each other, shields overlapping, firepower doubling. Every attack met a wall of defense. Every strike was answered with greater force. Kalen stood at the center of it all, his voice steady. Forward, no retreat. Show them what it means to fight humanity. And his fleet obeyed. The ghostly crews on the bridges did not move, yet the ships responded with perfect precision. Missiles launched in swarms, burning through enemy shields. Heavy cannons roared, tearing through capital ships. Drones, old yet deadly, poured from human carriers, swarming alien fighters and shredding them apart. The void became a graveyard again, but this time filled with alien wreckage. The Drael warlord roared in anger. "Impossible. They are too old. They cannot be this strong." Kellen's voice cut across his channel, cold and sharp. "You mocked what you never understood. These ships were not abandoned. They were preserved. Every hull, every cannon, every system carries the weight of human will. You face not just machines, you face history itself." The alien warlord screamed, ordering his fleet to charge. Hundreds of ships surged forward, desperate to break through. But the Mothyard shifted once more. For the first time, the aliens saw it, the full scale of humanity's hidden power. From the far edges of the Mothyard, more warships emerged, massive carriers, siege platforms, dreadnoughts the size of cities. Their engines blazed like suns as they joined the formation. The awakening fleet had arrived. The galaxy had believed the Colleved. Mothyard held hundreds of ships. Now they saw thousands. The alien fleets faltered. Courage shattered into fear. Some captains begged to retreat, but their commanders ordered them forward, refusing to accept humiliation. The awakening fleet unleashed its fury. Wave after wave of fire tore through the void. Alien ships exploded in brilliant flashes, their fragments scattering like dust. Entire wings vanished under the first barrage. The once proud armada of 3 empires crumbled like sand before a storm. In the council chambers across the galaxy. Alien leaders watched in silence. For the first time, they understood. This was not just defense. This was a warning. Admiral Kellen's voice thundered one last time, reaching every corner of the battlefield. "You came to laugh at our graveyard. You came to steal from our dead. But this place was never for you. It is for us. It is for those who will come after. The Mothyard is not weakness. It is memory. It is strength." The alien fleets burned. The awakening fleet stood unbroken. And yet, amid the wreckage, one alien warlord refused to flee. His ship, massive and scarred, turned its nose toward the human lines. He prepared his final desperate move, not to win, but to take everything. With him, his hand hovered over the detonator that would ignite his ship's core, enough to destroy the entire system. Kalen saw it. His eyes narrowed. "Ready all guns," he ordered. The void held its breath. The breaking point, the battlefield burned. The combined armada of 3 empires, Drael, Vena, Kiros, was nothing more than drifting wreckage. Their pride had been crushed. Their fleets torn apart by the awakening fleet of humans. But not all had fallen. At the center of the chaos, One ship remained. It was enormous. A Drael warlord's dreadnought, its hull scarred, its shields flickering. Smoke trailed from its vents, but its core still glowed with unstable power. Inside, the warlord stood at his command throne. His claws gripped the armrests, until metal bent under his strength. His eyes burned with madness, not fear. "They think they have won," he hissed. "They think their ghosts can shame us. But I will show them despair. If I cannot win, I will destroy everything." His crew stared at him in horror. "Warlord, a core detonation will consume us as well. Then we die as warriors." The warlord spat. "Better to vanish in fire than live in shame." He slammed his claw down on the activation panel. Warning sirens screamed as the dreadnought's core began to overload. Red lights flashed across every deck. The ship shook violently, energy building like a growing sun inside its heart. Across the Mothyard, Admiral Kalen saw it. His eyes narrowed. As the readings reached his screen, "They're going to trigger a core implosion," his officer reported. "If it detonates, the blast will tear through half the fleet." Kalen's jaw tightened. He stood tall on the bridge of his flagship, eyes locked on the burning Drael ship. "Then we end it before it begins." Outside, the awakening fleet shifted. Thousands of human warships realigned, their weapons turning toward the warlords. "Dreadnought," the Drael laughed, his voice carried across the comms. "Fire if you wish. You will be too late. The core is already burning. If I die, your fleet dies with me." Kellen's voice came calm, steady, cutting through the noise. "You underestimate us. That is your final mistake." The human dreadnoughts charged their cannons. Their glow lit the void, brighter than stars. The Drael ship trembled as its core burned hotter, seconds away from detonation. The warlord roared with pride. "Even if you destroy me, the blast will consume you." Kalen raised his hand. Fire. The awakening fleet unleashed its fury. Hundreds of beams converged on the Drael dreadnought at once. The sheer force tore through its shields, shredded its hull, and pierced straight into the unstable core. For a heartbeat, the ship glowed like a star about to be born. Then it exploded. The blast ripped outward in a blinding wave. Fire and debris flooded the void. Smaller human ships shuddered, their shields straining against the storm. But the formation held. Shield walls overlapped, absorbing the force together. When the light faded, the Drael ship was gone. Nothing remained but burning fragments. Silence followed. The alien warlord's last defiance had ended in ash. The Mothyard stood unbroken. On the bridge, Kalen lowered his hand. His face was calm, but his voice carried the weight of iron. "This is humanity's strength. Not numbers, not power, but unity. Alone we fall. Together we endure." Across the council chambers of the galaxy, alien leaders watched in silence. The three empires had been broken, their pride shattered. And still the Mothyard stood, more terrifying than ever. The avian delegates whispered in fear. If these ships are only their graveyard, what strength do the living humans hide? The insectoid envoys clicked nervously. No empire could match such unity. Not Drael, not Vena, not Kiros, none. But the reptilian leaders, red with rage, slammed their fists against their tables. "They shame us with ghosts. If the council does not destroy them, no one is safe." Kalen's voice cut across their arguments, his broadcast echoing into every system. "You came here to mock us. You came here to steal from us. You came here thinking we were finished. But this fleet stands because humanity does not forget. This is our vow. If you come again, you will not face relics, you will face vengeance." The galaxy trembled at his words. But Kalen was not finished. He turned to his officers, his voice quieter, but filled with resolve. They will not stop here. They will come again, stronger. And when they do, we will be ready. The Mothyard will. Remind them again and again what it means to awaken humanity. Outside, the fleet drifted back into position, silent once more. Their cannons cooled, their shields dimmed. The ghostly army returned to its waiting stance, as if nothing had happened. But the galaxy would never forget the sight of it. The Mothyard had stood against 3 empires combined and won. The galaxy had reached its breaking point. And in the silence, everyone knew the next step would not be a test. It would be war. The lesson of the Mothyard, the void, was quiet again. The fire of battle had faded, leaving behind the drifting remains of 3 proud empires. The wreckage of hundreds of alien ships floated among the steel giants of the Mothyard. Where others had come to mock, now only silence remained. On the bridge of his flagship, Admiral Kalen stood tall. His face was worn, his eyes sharp, and his voice steady. Around him, the ghostly crew stood unmoving, their presence as eternal as the ships they served. He gazed at the ruined fleets outside. "It is finished," he said softly. Then louder, to the galaxy itself. "And let this be remembered. Humanity does not abandon its past. Humanity does not forget." Across the galaxy, alien leaders gathered in their councils. Their voices were hushed now, no longer filled with laughter. Fear sat heavy on them all. The avian heroes whispered, "They hit a fleet larger than all our armies." The insectoid Vena clicked nervously. And they fought with perfect unity, as if one mind commanded them all. The reptilian Drail slammed his claws against the table, though even his voice shook. "They shame us. One fleet humiliated 3 empires. If we do not unite, humanity will eclipse us all." But others saw something more. A quiet truth burned in their minds. Humans had not unleashed the Mothyard to conquer. They had unleashed it to remind the galaxy of who they were. Back in the Mothyard, Callan's voice spread once more, carried across every cum relay, every listening station, every ship that dared to hear. "You thought us gone. You thought us broken. But this fleet stands as proof. We do not leave our guardians behind. We do not throw away what protects us. We keep them, we honor them, and when the time comes, we awaken them." His voice grew harder, sharper, like steel. "You looked upon the Mothyard and saw weakness. You laughed at our graveyard, and now you see it for what it truly is, a fortress, a promise, a warning. Humanity does not need to boast. Humanity does not need to conquer. We only need to remember, and that memory is enough to break you." The galaxy trembled with his words. Stories spread in every corner of space. Traders whispered to their crews. Soldiers murmured in fear. Children of alien empires dreamed of human warships rising from the dark. Everywhere, the same words were spoken. Never enter the Mothyard. For the first time in centuries, humanity was no longer mocked. It was feared. Respected. Kelen stood at the wide viewport, watching as the awakening fleet slowly dimmed its lights. One by one, the great warships returned to silence. Engines cooled, shields faded, cannons turned to rest. The giants became shadows once again, drifting in the dark. But every alien knew they were not dead. They were waiting. Kalen lowered his head, speaking not to the galaxy, but to the silent crew at his side. "Rest now, until you are called again." The ghostly figures did not answer, but somehow the air felt alive with their loyalty. At the very edge of the council worlds, one alien delegate whispered what the others dared not say aloud. "The humans have shown us the greatest weapon is not firepower, but memory. They fight not only for today, but for every tomorrow." And so the lesson of the Mothyard spread across the stars. The lesson was simple, terrible, unforgettable. Mock the humans if you dare. Test them if you must. But never forget when you threaten their legacy. When you step into the places they guard, you will find not relics, not bones, not silence. You will find the Mothyard dot, and when you do, everything changes.